So a while back I did a poll on which Daedric weapon I should play with next, and a large portion of you wanted an Azura Star run. However, at the time of making this run, there was news of a potential Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remake or remaster or whatever in the works, and given how intertwined that run will be with Oblivion, I will shelve it until the reveal. So I'm going to go in with the second place finisher of that poll, Mehrunes Dagon, which also happens to be an Oblivion themed run. Well, there's no escaping it, so I figure I can have some fun with this run. So to tie in with the character-based run, since I haven't had a lot of those recently, today we will attempt to beat Skyrim as Mankar Camoran. Truth be told, this run was actually recorded back in January, around the time I recorded the New Game Plus run, so yeah, this intro is a little bit dated. So who exactly is Mankar Camoran? Well, he's the leader of the Mythic Dawn, which is an evil group trying to bring Mehrunes Dagon into Tamriel, resulting in the end of the Third Era, and I could go into more details, but you should really play Oblivion instead. It is much better than Skyrim in so many ways. Back to the run at hand, rules are going to be pretty loose. Mankar is a powerful mage, so anything magic related will be my go-to. I'm also letting myself use Mehrunes' Razor also, given a loyal servant to Dagon and all. As for armor, the rules are going to be a little bit loose, just gotta look blue, or blue enough. Given how I tend to struggle as playing as a mage, that is enough difficulty for me. More so, this run is defined by its bonus objectives, namely, anything to destroy the Empire. So that means for sure I'll have to complete the Civil War and Dark Brotherhood quest lines. And for my other main objective, will be obviously to complete Dagon's quest. Suffice to say, this is going to be a longer run. And in my 23 challenge runs of Skyrim, this one was definitely one of the weirdest ones I have done. So just how much of a massive headache am I going to be to the Imperial Legion? Well, let's find out. Starting up with the character creator, I make my best effort at creating Mankar, and I think I did a good enough job given how bad I am at these creators. Kinda hard to tell the details because Oblivion loves its bloom. Despite Skyrim's best efforts of character creators, there is still no way I can hope to match up with Oblivion's hilarious system. Oh, the nightmare fuel you can make with that. I almost have to pay for my crimes, but by the powers of the Daedra, or our plot armor, who knows, I am saved and now I'm running through Kvatch too. Anyways, during the escape I did side with Roloff because anything to make the Imperial struggle. I did the burst damage technique of the flame spell to easily burn the captain to a crisp, and same true for most of the rest of the intro, though I did come close to dying on the Torturer because High Elves really hate being zapped back. And also in the cell I picked up the Sparkler spell to help with damage, but for now I'd run with my hands on fire to help on Magicka reserves, at least until I get some perks and armor, though I do enjoy burning villages down from time to time. There wasn't much to note leaving the intro, and before too long I'm outside of my high fantasy world, and ready to get started on toppling the Empire from the next province over. First order of business is getting some better attire, and in abandoned camp I roasted some marshmallows, and I got a treasure map I forgot to grab because of my 20 barely functioning brain cells along with a robe. And up the road a little bit is a body of a Thalmor that has an enchanted piece of attire and a hooded robe that gives a reduction to cost, so a very worthwhile find, at least for now. Anyways, usual introduction stuff like pretending to be a mage for a little bit, then going to Ember Shard Mine to turn these shards of raiders into nothing but embers. The game is just asking you to do destruction. I then made a brief pit stop in Riverwood to rob the local traders of his goods with his goods, then continued to follow the main story somewhat by talking to Girder, then hopping my way across the tundra roasting the local wildlife, then hopping on a caravan to Solitude, which is going to be the focal point of the run. I did some litter box stabbing for some early game stuff to help give me an edge. And then I entered the city named after my love life, but at least I'm happy this way. Anyways, the reason I am here is to talk to Sobiel and getting some destruction training from her. I am going to need to hit level 20 during the run, so I will be needing to level up quite a lot. By convincing the wizard to give me my gold back, I can power level destruction up quite a ways, which will help out a lot in the early game, plus giving me speech levels. You would think given me being an expert on power leveling, I should be level 20 in an instant, but A, no major glitches, and B, I would like to have a somewhat authentic time. At least for a little bit. Next up I continue my litter box circuit, getting more materials for the early game, then disenchanting some stuff for later. Well, since I am in Dawnstar, I figured I could go ahead and mark a couple locations for later. On my way there I came across my new bonus objective, something I'd have to do now before the place burns down. Since the Vigilance of Stendarr hates anything data related, and thus hates Dagon, plus I haven't done any good cleaning in a few runs, I decided to hunt down any Vigilance of Stendarr I come across. So figures I could wipe out their hull since I am in the area. These battle mages tend to focus on the battle part, and easily gets picked off by the mage. Inside things were a little more dicey, mostly because of the close quarter nature of the place. I tried leading everyone outside, but nah, they want to keep close to the door, so I used the wait function to go in, do some chip, walk out and heal, and it goes pretty well, until it didn't. so I decided to use the room to my advantage, dancing around like a madman until everyone fell to my flames, and hopefully the loose flames from the battle don't catch anything on fire. I also go around stealing everything from the place, and each vigilant carries 2 healing potions, so that is a major benefit for the slaughter, and not because I'm always a bloodthirsty maniac. Next up, I wanted to pay a visit to Lord Dagon, so I climbed the steps to his shrine. Sadly, Senpai does not even acknowledge me, so I clean out the nearby bandit camp and touch the Lord Dagon stone instead for a defense bonus because, well, mages are obviously pretty squishy. Then because I'm also in the area, I thought I could go to the nearby dragon den before the dragon spawn to get some free loot. Well, the loot was free, but what I was not expecting was Wisp Mother to ambush me. I honestly forgot these enemies even are in the game. Given my low level, I don't stand a chance, so I booked it down the mountain, thankfully without any splats along the way. Back on solid ground, I watched a couple Akaviri harass a woman, and since I am the gentleman I am, I save her from her accosters. Then because I don't believe in any witnesses, I smothered her out. Okay, I might not be a gentleman after all. I then hit up Murwatch, not to take advantage of the broken enchantment glitch, but just for some potions. I grilled the guardian shards here, and learned that couriers are indeed magical. I grabbed some easy loot, made a couple of staves to bump up my enchanting, then grinded some enchanting until I hit level 40 for some perks, and made a big upgrade on my gear, so now I have some magic to my name, and I can play a mage as intended. Well, as ready as I can be, I return to Riverwood to start Bleak Falls Barrow. On my usual path up to the first dungeon, I finally got the treasure chest I always neglect that only spawns if you have the note, and then afterwards I set my taser to kill instead of thrill, and it definitely gives results. Everyone must have been sleeping because I don't get a cold reception when climbing the stairs, which is fine by me. Inside the burrow, the bandit who normally has a heart condition has leveled up to 20 Hawks underground level, but with my defibrillator, I can torch him into the afterlife. The frostbite spiders suffer the same, sucks being too dummy thick. As for the Draugr section, a few more Draugr than usual have upgraded to why the hell am I up at 3 AM once again variant, which just means I need a little more tickling to go back to bed. Thanks to the spam instead of a constant beam, I can keep my magic in top form while still doing good damage. One Draugr could not handle the concept of the high ground and booked it out of there. Coward! Anakin won the battle. Eventually. After trucking through the second tutorial without tutorial prompts, I'm at the Overlord, and the Draugr boss suffers from double overtime and a crippling addiction to gacha. It crawls out of bed sad and lonely, it yells at me to go back to work, and then it goes back to bed for good. I claim my MacGuffin, told the guard there'd be dragons about. He seemed skeptical at first, but the Jarl loves my story so much he gives me his personal armory and sends me out to fight a dragon. And besides story bits, I figured now I could stop at Farengar for an upgrade on my spells. In my word, I am so damn tempted to get in the elemental spells because they are super overpowered, and at least I can get them for free. I grabbed some mid-level spells just so that way I can hit stuff from afar. So for Myrmilnir, I tried pelting it from afar, but the dragon ignores my attempts at playing Zeus and just flies in regardless. I do run out of magicka pretty quickly, but then I remembered I'm a very egotistical Altmer, so I embraced the voice of the nerd emoji everyone says I have, if they can understand my gibberish, regenerate my magicka at a heightened rate, and turn this lizard into a gizzard. Back at Dragon's Reach, I relayed the good news that I can rhyme, and I can head along to my next story objective, but because I have attention issues along with like 10 brain cells, I put that idea on pause and traveled on to Winterhold. I recorded this run in the dead of winter, though this video comes out during the springtime. I don't understand the concept of time, only the concept of hazing local walruses for small amounts of experience. On the ice, some hired thugs tried to come after me. They couldn't really teach me a lesson very well, and the first thug meets a cold demise. The second thug is one of those who does nothing during the group assignments and claims all the credit. Found out that Gosakar set sent the goons. I guess the Afterlife Hitman service must be a hit. I then talked to my sanity to get keys to the Outer Scroll. Weird that I would try Aftan this early in the run, but I won't be doing Aftan for a long time. I then took another very cold swim across the ocean towards Hobbs Fall Cave while putting shock collars on some bad dogs. As for the dungeon, I brought some data from Oblivion into the fold, sapping the necromancers once they drop their guards. Well, as with any runs where I want to power level, I'm here for the unbound spells, and I will take it by force if I have to. I want to get Dagon's quest done ASAP, so I need to power level pretty quickly, so 2 birds, 1 stone. I then got my spells from the credit card chest, and yeah, comparing the mana cost, the elemental spells has a lower magicka cost than the Sparks relative, and it benefits from 2 augmented perks instead of just 1. Pretty obvious why these spells are just overpowered. I used my pay to win on the final mages here, and nuking them out of existence. I'll probably not be able to use these spells again, so I decided, why not, just go all out. At least with these spells I don't need to aim as much, which works pretty well because I have the most NA aim. Once I left the dungeon, I power leveled while traveling, really powering up my build with the augments in the meantime, and since I hit the next enchanting milestone, I upgraded my gear once again to cast spells even cheaper, which means more chaos. Currently, since the Vigilants are now higher up on my proverbial hit list, I decided to re-clear out their hideout, but seems the candle I knocked over must have burnt the place down. Oh well, nothing of value was lost anyways. Afterwards I traveled to Riften, and I have a small errand I need to do in town, having a one-on-one mage duel, but because I don't want to detonate the town, I have to be a little bit careful, so no small thermonuclear detonations, just shock spells, and I nearly died at a couple points. I am still a small-time mage, a minnow in a pond, but I shall swallow this big fish. And I do. Just had to turn him into a pile of dust first. Oh yeah, the main reason I'm in town. Well, the Vigilants are still around, so I figured I could go to their other headquarters to clear them out like the railroad. I summoned a thunderstorm, and the whole lightning doesn't strike twice is a bunch of bull. I got struck a couple times while cleaning the tower out. With a pretty distractions to make my 7 brain cells happy, I figured I could pay the wise old man that lets you stab in the back a visit, and I do another unbound skip travel, furthering my destruction to a level I'm happy with, at least for the rest of the run. Not quite 100, but close enough. At least I got the dual impact perk, which is pretty funny and will be helpful later on. There wasn't much to know during the adventure. Some bandits took over Kvatch too, and they became worm food too. I can cast the spells for dirt cheap, so anything that looks at me funny gets a face full of hell. A bolt of electricity so powerful it sets the arrow around it on fire. I don't have to aim anymore, so my brain no longer has to use its 5 brain cells for combat. A local hobo was minding his own business, so I killed him to cut down on backtracking. The town didn't really like it, but it seems his life is only worth 40 septims. No wonder why there's a contract for his head. Either that or the legal system of Skyrim is an absolute joke. See the illusion run for details, and I plan on exploiting it to my advantage. I then climbed a crapload of stairs because the elevator was out. Anyone who tried to talk to me in the stairway was sent to heaven, and I blasted a saber cat so hard he was sent to another universe. At this point, since I have power, my moral compass was tossed away. The frost troll only took 2 balls to take down, and at this point, the run is basically done. I did the boring story bits, and I got the ability to travel fast. While using dragon shouts is a gray area for my runs, Mankar did mention in the commentaries he could speak a new language and speak fire, implying he might be dragonborn. So, you're friendly! Afterwards, I spent some time trying to upgrade my gear again, getting pretty close to level 20 at this point, and cutting my magic cost to minimal. I tried trading with Sabil, and all I got was a novice robe of destruction, but at least I got more soul gems so I can spend some time enchanting until I got 60 for an armor upgrade. But because I'm wanting more power, I got admitted into the college, but I'm not here to learn, just to party. And by party, I mean talk to one of the professors on Roads of Destruction. I get an adept set, which is more or less sets me up for the rest of the run. Back at Whiterun, I was greeted by some cultists, but I learned something interesting. Durak is secretly into Mirak, because when I initiated a brawl in the streets, Durak tried killing me. Must have known about the Oblivion crisis or something. I let the guards take care of the cultists while I watched in awe, and then I had to put Durak down. He was stunned at my prowess, and I can claim his loot for myself. Congratulations, Durak! Your mortality is now at stake for future runs for your good gear. Anyways, the reason I am back in town is to upgrade my armor once again, slapping on more fortified destruction so now my spells cost next to nothing, and most importantly, leveling me up to level 20 so now I can get started on Usengrav. Why Usengrav and not Dagon's quest? Well, I want to be able to dip from reality at a moment's notice, and not because of my remaining 3 2/3 brain cells for getting stuff. On my way there, I was harassed by a dragon, and because of the dual cast stagger perk, the dragon can do nothing to me. The lizard shall bow at the blessings of Dagon. I also zapped the necromancer out of this world. Inside Usengrav, I can fire my nukes from afar, and the blast cleans out the intro party. The rave 1 floor down was also blasted apart. Both sides were wiped out with such efficiency, and at this point, I am unstoppable. If anything looks at me funnily, I just wipe the grin off their face as their flesh is basically disintegrated from their bodies. A skeleton down here was met with a Kamehameha and fell apart like Legos. I got my funny shout, give spiders the only treatment they deserve at this size, and found the origin of the Creation Club specialty. Back at Dawnstar, a new museum has opened up, and because I'm a patron of the fine arts, I am let inside. And I learned my legacy still lives on. Glad to know. I am given a task of collecting parts from all over Skyrim to forge a dagger. I gave Jorgen a few septums to let me into his house. Simple enough, and a little legal trespassing while his wife was home. Totally not set up for the next romantic drama. My next stop is nearby Mankar. Just have to detour around a large old mountain. There were some vigilants along the pathway, so I made sure they were referred to in the past tense, and I had a pure heart attack when the wolf jump scared me. Well, there's my horror game quota for the next decade. At the Forsworn camp, I have superior technology. I have invested so much into the tech tree, meanwhile these AI only have pointy sticks. The battle was very one-sided. Not even the Briarheart boss stood a chance. And one poor subscribe button was hit so hard it was turned into a bell. As for Crone Rock, it was a small interior and I was out in a flash. The hag Raven at the end didn't even recognize what was going on before she was blasted into a puff of feathers, and I can claim my reward. All that remains is a part near Falkreath. At the very least, Cracktusk Keep is a short walk away, and the silly orc hunters here were hunted with such efficiency, and even the boss-leveled leader was of no issue. Inside the basement, I knew of the obvious trap, so I just remote detonated the trap, utilizing the remaining 2.5 brain cells I have, and claimed the last piece of the puzzle. I returned to the museum, let Silas travel to the shrine while I claimed what was rightfully mine back. I even turned a paper into a bucket. This must be what the true form of Oblivion looks like. Up at the shrine, Dagon asked me to kill Silas. Because I'm a loyal servant to Dagon, I appease him with a sacrifice for new robes. I reforged a dagger which will be used for the most important sacrifices, and Dagon gives me some toys to play with. I then enter the shrine for more loot, and now it is my mission to spread chaos across Skyrim, so time to have some fun. The dagger itself is a very powerful boss-killing weapon, comparable to about a Daedric or so dagger, but it has the neat perk of rarely one-shotting an enemy, ranging from a rabbit to a legendary dragon. Yeah, this weapon can get pretty funny. Afterwards, I traveled to Windhelm to talk to Aventus to start the Dark Brotherhood, and then I figured why not? Let's start a war! I then talked to the most annoying political leader, and my first task for them is to kill a Frostwraith on a frozen iceberg. Way less fun than clearing out a bandit camp. I do my sprinting and fall damage immunity shouts, and blasted a wolf out of existence. And I am now two-shotting snow bears, which are amongst the strongest wildlife in the game. I think this spell is really good. On a capsized ship, I did have to deal with a blizzard spell, but then again sidestepping is a hard counter to that spell line. I then gave the Wraith a very warm reception, and I'm sworn into the Stormcloaks. On my way to the first battle with Imperials, I was trailed by a thug. Probably the same group of thugs all the way back at Septimus's outpost. The pool of mercenaries are definitely a joke, and at this point all I can say is that the run started to get a little weird. I did get a practice at fort raiding, and I just love sprinting across the tundra. While the Imperials all use basic weapons, and I have a portable rocket launcher without having to deal with splash damage. The battle is very one-sided. As for the insights, there wasn't much to note. I'm a one-man army, and I rarely have to stop to fight, and before too long I'm at the boss fight with the Death Lord, which requires a few more Corona blasts to take down. And I just left to clean up to the soldiers. Don't want to put the fire into friendly fire after all. I return the crown to the leader with a frail ego, and next up I get to return to Whiterun. When I went to the Jarl's chamber, Aventus is a dear friend and thanks me for everything I have done. Not even 5 minutes later, I'm leading a raiding party to overtake the city and raze it to the ground. Shouldn't have given me a mere 5 septums. The charge into town was pretty simple. I tried using the Unbound Storms to smite the guards, but using the Elemental Blast was way more efficient and a lot more fun. I just point and clicked and I would kill up to 5 at a time. I am enjoying this carnage. The battle inside the city was more or less the same, just fewer guards bunched up for the slaughter. I don't care about any preamble, I just fired at the groups. The second group I incurred a bounty. Sure, ransacking a city is legal, but getting a preemptive strike on a battle is illegal. Okay, game. After the Jarl was defeated, Galmar chased after my Daedra, so that made the delegations take a bit longer. When I returned to Windhelm, I was arrested, and subsequently paid off my fine, and was warped 2 meters away. Not even a load. This game is funny sometimes. I get my next mission, and steal my stuff back. I work hard to rescue those items before the building was burned down to the ground, thank you very much. The next mission is breaking into a fort, so I dove through the waters to sneak in the back entrance after giving myself the waterboarding treatment. I didn't have to try very hard to free the prisoners. I thought I'd let my Dremora do all the work, but it gets caught up in my crossfire. Then comes the fort cleanup, and if it moves, I shot it. No idea if it was friend or foe. Turns out once I finished sending the unaware troops to the afterlife, Roloff told me no one made it out. Whoopsies! Well, Ulfric didn't even care that I accidentally killed off all the allies, and next up is doing a sneak mission. Just getting to the Rift Camp takes a while because it is far away from everything. On my way there, the nudist bandits were fried to a crisp, supersonic speeds makes travel so much faster, and added more to my vigilant kill count. I got my information, and next up is sneaking into Markarth. When I got to town there was a mugging in the middle of the night, and I don't care. I only get paid minimum wage. The same can be said about the guard of the palace. He has to guard a circle, and doesn't even bother chasing after me. I loot the necklace in front of the guy, and he gives me the scoop on some Imperial supplies. I gathered a raiding party, mostly me because I'm a bigger threat to my own army than the enemy army. and in a few blasts I stealthily take everyone out. With blasts that can be heard in Whiterun with the power of a couple suns. At the very least, mission is complete, and next up is hiking towards the fort. In my travels I came across a fire mage and an ice mage dueling on which is better. The answer is a credit card and the funny 3-digit number on the back of it. I also gotten lost a few times because I really underestimate how far south the fort actually is. When I finally made it to the fort, I started to open fire at the soldiers. The enemies tended to group up, so the fort battles didn't take very long. I believe in sparing enemies to surrender. The Stormcloaks, though, not so much. The next region to liberate is Hellmarch, so hunting down a courier. On my way there, I came across a headless horseman who is certainly headless, and I followed it into Dragon's Bridge. I've been playing Skyrim for 12 years now, and that is the very first time I've ever seen the horseman. I knew of the horseman's existence, just never seen it. I got my information from the innkeep and began to use my whirlwind sprint glitch to speed across the highway, only to find out he passed me during the time pause. I goaded him into a brawl, where I used my nukes inside the building to subdue the courier and take my information. That incurred a bounty, and now every guard is after me, so I do the only logical thing. I wipe everyone from this settlement off the map. And this began a very long week for Hoffinger. Next mission is liberating Snowhawk, but since I'm in town and the bounty resets after this mission, I proceed to kill the bard here. He is a contract anyway, so taking him out of the equation is fine by me. And everyone else in town too. Okay, I'm becoming very concerned about my mental state sometimes. I fear what the 2 brain cells did to that half of one. Well, Snowhawk has the worst defenses of any fort I've ever seen. Just a simple hop and you're inside the fort. This fort plays out like the last one, just committing war crimes with my mini nuke, collateral notwithstanding, and after a couple of minutes the fort is ours and I'm bounty free. You know, all this slaughter has me pretty tired. I think I should take a nap. Oh, hold on one second. With my freedom bought, I thought I could start on the Dark Brotherhood since I'm just about done with the Civil War, and I want to get my bounty in Solitude much, much higher. Inside the Sanctuary I get my first set of contracts. 1 of the 3 has already been taken care of, so 2 to go. Inside Dawnstar I nuked my first target, along with half of the Pale's population. Didn't need to go as thorough as I did, but at the same time, Dagon demands destruction, so destruction I shall be. Next stop is near the Nightingale Inn. Along the way I was followed by a very confused hired thug, so I killed her and took the note. And it seems someone from one of the orc camps is sad that Lubach was killed. I'm honestly surprised that anyone actually liked the guy. I then got up high and launched a care package towards the target, and he was taken care of. Since I'm in the area and I want to cut down on backtracking, I climbed the steps into the nearby Dwarven dungeon. I just fired away at the bandits here, and even took out a lane in the chaos. That quest is done before it even starts, and since I do need an Elder Scroll at some point, it is in the name after all, and I don't fancy breaking into the Imperial Palace, this dungeon will do fine. While this dungeon is a bit tougher than Aftan, it isn't something I'm too worried about. The Falmer might be blind, but they sure must be able to hear my atomic blast from afar. The lighting is sure blinding, that's for sure. The dungeon is pretty straightforward, and before too long I'm in the boss room with the gears. They were not prepared to see the sun once again. As for the Dwarven Guardian, the stagger effect of dual cast just kept the wannabe Transformer stun-locked and shut down. And turned into a dust bunny too. Inside Blackreach, I'm feeling like a villain with everything falling into place, so I figured I could play with the local dragon. The local servants weren't too keen on the whole charging into the fortress and using my death balls. The dragon itself was pretty simple, just unlock it so I can't do anything, and I can claim another soul from my belly. I then solved a simple puzzle straining my 1 3/4 brain cells, and I claimed my Xarces in the form of toilet paper. I sent the giant who sends people into space on a one-way ticket to a sun, and also marking Volendrud for later. Continuing on the trend of knocking out contracts ahead of time, I wandered to Half Moon Mill and tried to break in. Killing chickens? Legal. Picking a lock? Illegal. I found Hurt, and I put on the hurt, but sadly her husband isn't here, and I don't think he shows up until the quest is active, but oh well. More sun-baked chicken for me. Back at the Sanctuary, it seems Mother is stopping by for a visit, and we get our next contract. I surprised Murray that our target is already dead before the contract was made. It's called I've played this game a few dozen times before. Next mission involves embracing Mummy and eavesdropping on Cicero, aka making lunch and going to the bathroom while the Jester continues to have mommy issues. I learned I'm a listener, and next up is getting a contract for a horrible bard and a vampire. Right now the bard is singing to the dead, and probably getting beaten to a pulp in the afterlife, so just the vampires I mentioned a paragraph ago. I then get a big boy target, killing the Emperor, which is basically the introduction to Oblivion because they couldn't afford Patrick Stewart for very long. I then put the Brotherhood on hold for the time being, and decided to go ahead with the main story, so I talked to Delphine and she requested I take down a dragon, taking a long dirt nap. As soon as it wakes up, I just blast it away and the fight is over in a blink of the eye. And it just transcended reality and rolled over. Okay game, you do you. I had to wait for Delphine to show up because I really beat her to the punch, and I returned to the not very kinky dungeon, and next up is the Thalmor Embassy. The hardest part of the mission was getting into the embassy, since everyone in Solitude wants my head for, wiping Dragon Bridge off the map, and in Solitude I had the guards come after me. Today I'm a little thirsty, so I spread the joys of the elements to the citizens of Solitude. They weren't very pleased with the whole slaughter of the town. This won't be the last visit either. I then gave Melbourne everything I had to smuggle in, so I am leaving without my enchantments, with guards coming after me. So I had to run, and use my blast to take out the guards. I surrendered near Delphine, just so she doesn't attack me on sight. But I mean, Solitude's prison is easy to break out of anyways, so I just sneak on out of paying for my crimes, and I travel to the farm to start the embassy. But the guards are still hot on my trail, so much for that. And a f***ing dragon also came to visit. Just, what the f*** game? So I had Delphine chase after the dragon, it taking out half the guards in the area, and I couldn't do much of anything because I don't have any enchanted gear, just a loincloth to keep this video ad friendly. But by fumbling around, at least I could get the situation under control for the most part. I put on my party clothes, and I can finally start the embassy. Well, that was a fun little encounter. Thankfully the embassy was way less chaotic. For me anyways. For the Thalmor guards, not so much. I mean, it's kinda hard to miss frequent explosions from the next room over. And yeah, for the most part they were all one-shots. As for the outside, I just fired blindly, and I don't even think in the Solar anyone registered what went on until their flesh was melted from their body. I spared nobody, and I lined it up where once a Thalmor walked in, the first frame, they were dead. Too bad this is yet another run where Melbourne doesn't survive, but oh well. Also, the prisoner was really breaking it down. Next stop is the Ratways, and Shivari was certainly lit up. The lunatics never saw it coming, and the splash damage made cleaning out the place very simple. I got my information from Delvin, and I talked to Esbern to bring him back home. His hole in the wall was still way better than my college dorm for a quarter of the cost, and not having to walk a mile in -20 weather. The resistance coming out was non-existent, and before long the blades are reunited. All 2 of them. That is 2/3 more of the number of brain cells I have left at this point. Before starting Proud Ruler Temple, I decided to go attend a wedding. It is wedding season after all. When I return to Solitude, the town isn't too pleased on my kill everyone mentality, and as for the wedding, everybody lived happily ever after life. Till death do us part and all that sort of stuff. Somehow in the entire process, I am not the true monster. Esbern and Delphine were chasing and trying to kill a child. I might be evil, but I will not stoop that low. On my way out of town, I had some hired thugs come after me. Yeah, they didn't last. How many are we up to now? I returned to the sanctuary and told Delphine to go ahead to Karspire. They caused enough destruction for one day. Next up in the pain train is to kill Gaius Maro. As soon as I was finished spawning in, everyone in town immediately came after me. Don't blame them, they've already had a week. And then a dragon attacked the town. Dust. I don't even know what's going on anymore. At least the evidence was cleaned up. Paper trail though, yeah, it's kinda obvious that I did it. At least this way it looks like the Mythic Dawn came out of hiding. Back at the sanctuary, they weren't very pleased on the whole broad daylight thing, but oh well. Cicero went berserk, and we need to chase the clown down. Inside the Dawnstar Sanctuary, ghosts are thankfully weak to magic, so no silver weapons are needed. And yeah, the purification of the sanctuary was pretty simple and easy. Nobody really stood in my way. At least long enough. As for the Jester, instead of listening him drivel on, I listened to a disco ball and then smothered the fool out. The next mission with that distraction out of the way is becoming Le Gourmet. I questioned the Breton in Markarth, got my information, and fought my way out. I'm not a cloak and dagger sort of person, more of a showman, sending all these poor souls to Oblivion. Everyone came to see me leave the city, which makes cleanup all the more easy. At the end, I charbroiled the chef, and burning down the kitchen because I forgot about it, hid the body, and dealt with another bloody dragon. I just can't catch a break today. I returned to the sanctuary, and turns out I forgot the writ. Oopsies. The time has come for another visit to Solitude, and when I entered town, nobody was trying to gut me like a horker, which is very suspicious. I gave Gianna the food she needs, put in the writ because that seems like a very Oblivion way for an heir of the Emperor to go. I gave the Emperor his dinner plate, and seems that my food is indeed to die for. Once the Emperor is dead, everybody else was too, but seems it was all a trap. Well, the guards are trapped on the bridge with me, and I made my escape, adding yet another moment to a very crappy week in Solitude. When I returned to the sanctuary, it was burning down to yet another candle tipped over, so I need to kill all the Oculus agents here. Once the best member was saved, I embraced the mother yet again, and paid Astrid back for her kindness. I then returned to Solitude, continued to kill everyone that stood in my way, including Morrow, then swam my way to the boat. The game really wants you to be stealthy here. Do you know how stealthy explosions are? Especially the plasma-infused explosions. I want to make sure that the boat stays in Skyrim, meaning everyone has to go. The deck wasn't too much to write home about. I took my throne in paradise, glitching out, and before long I'm in the Emperor's chambers. So, I have 3 souls I want to send to Dagon. The first is the Emperor, wiping out the bloodline for good, and appeasing Dagon. Even though this isn't the Septimus bloodline, but oh well. I also sent him on to Oblivion as a bonus because, you know, Imperial Official that is high ranking. And I get 20,000 Septims for my coffers. Not the Brotherhood, mine. Since the bloodline is gone, the blades are no longer necessary, so time to get the main story back on track. Karthspire was pretty simple to clear out. Everyone is grouped up like a hippie festival, just without the skooma, and I just sprinted through the place, clearing out the place until nobody was left, even the dragon. I stopped counting flying deathclaws at this point. Inside Karthspire, the Briarheart goes down easily enough, and I'm just down to my final brain cell. I just platformed my way up to the final room, took a bit of finagling, but eventually I hopped my way up, and donated blood to open a portal to paradise, but sadly I'm missing a lot of MacGuffins to make that a reality. I got my information from Esbern, and because I hate the blades, especially these blades, I blasted both to Oblivion. So yet another blow to the Empire, so hopefully now Solitude can breathe a sigh of relief. And now the Stormcloaks are marching on Solitude. What a week. On my way to the final fort, a thief tried to mug me, but sorry to break it to them, they aren't anyone. I also checked my bounty at this point, and it was up to 16,000, but that's probably higher, but oh well. I just put the laughter into slaughter, and with everyone bunching up, it made for an easy battle. I feel unstoppable at this point. When I tried to return to camp, I had guards chasing after me, from somewhere. So I had to walk all the way back, and now it is time for the final battle. On my way to the rally point, I had someone phase out of existence right in front of me. And at this point, I am done trying to figure out this game. As we walk through the streets of Solitude, in the last week, this city has dealt with an attack on Dragon's Bridge, including losing a courier, had several neighbors be taken over by the Stormcloaks, had an attack in broad daylight by a nudist, followed by a dragon making a visit and attacking the docks, the nearby Thalmor embassy getting blasted apart, a wedding interrupted by an assassin resulting in the deaths of everyone in attendance, a dragon attack on Dragon's Bridge resulting in the death of a commander's son, a failed assassination on the Emperor of Tamriel in Solitude, another dock attack resulting in the death of a major commander, the Emperor of Tamriel assassinated just below Solitude, and now an enemy army is marching on the city with the person involved with nearly every single misfortune leading the charge. Suffice to say, Solitude has had a very week. At the very least, the war's conclusion was swift, and I sent Tullius' soul to Dagon to play with. I think with everything that has happened, I don't see the Empire lasting for much longer. At this point, I was originally going to do the side quest added in Creation Club, where you go into an Oblivion gate in an Ayleid ruins, but for some baffling reason, you can't start the side quest until you're level 48, and I'm only level 20, and I don't fancy doing any more leveling, so I will let it be. We can just say Mankar let them open once the Dragon Menace has been dealt with. I then returned to High Hrothgar to finish the run, and I checked my stats, and with all the stuff I did in Solitude, including murdering the Emperor, I get away scot-free. In that hold anyways. Well, I get my ears blasted out by the average YouTube poop, then learn how to clear skies for better hell weather. Those must have been some very good mashed potatoes. The climb was not very interesting. I talked smack to party snacks, then went back in time to watch a recreation of Oblivion's ending. So for the first battle with Alduin, I had a little bit of a tricky time, mostly not being able to stagger with my fireballs, but I mean, the damage is more than enough. Just had to use a few potions to start out the battle, but once I had the Gecko in my sights, I just barrage him with my fury until he submits and goes to Sovngarde to cry that he was bested by the main antagonist of the previous game. It's not like you're very threatening without mods to begin with. Since I've already completed the Civil War, I can skip right to Sovngarde. Just had to watch a guard get the dive rock treatment. I was ready to be jumped by the mailman when getting Odahviing to the trap, now the corpse of a dragon just spawning in out of nowhere, and giving me a dragon soul. This has been one bloody weird run, and I gave up many paragraphs ago. I then got a carpool to the final dungeon, and I just blasted away at the Draugr and dragons here. The Draugr here were leveled up to the white variant, so they took one more blast to take down than the Restless. The exterior cleanup was pretty straightforward, Just running and gunning and I'm back inside my natural habitat, that being inside away from the sun. I am an unstoppable killing machine, so the zombies were put back to bed, and there really wasn't much to be said. The puzzles are simple enough that my last remaining quarter of a brain cell could somewhat handle, and the Overlord at the end was a clean one-shot. These spells are just busted. Back outside where I hiss at the sun, I wipe out the Draugr, and you know what? I could go ahead and fight the Dragon Priest here. Okay, that was very easy. I don't don the mask because minor restrictions, but to flex my powers, I fought the Elder Dragon here, and that fight was also very simple. Sure, I did run out of magicka at one point, but honestly, I was expecting my ego to get blasted back in place. Nope. I just fired and claimed 2 more useless Dragon Souls in my pack, and I'm inside Sovngarde. Damn it, I wanted to open an Oblivion gate. Inside the afterlife I saw Rika here, and while I could let her live, being dead twice sounds more fun than just once. And I did not discriminate on my cleanup. I'm at Soon, and yeah, this Brawn was taken out in 2 blasts. Just did not stand a chance. I claimed my backup for the final battle, and we did some shouting away at the clouds, and the final battle could begin. So the last soul I want to harvest for Dagon is the aspect of Akatosh as payback for the end of Oblivion, or something. When the dragon landed, I was ready for a battle and... oh. Well, I guess I successfully beat Skyrim as Mankar Camoran. That was a very silly run. Sure, the elemental blast spells are just downright busted, but it was fun going around nuking Tamriel with these unnatural spells. Probably the only time I'll be able to use them, so I gotta make it last. And really, that was the first time I have been able to use a battle mage correctly. And as a note, this run was actually recorded before the illusion run. I get the appeal, but frankly, I'd rather go back to playing as a thief or assassin, or causing mass chaos in the streets. As for the run itself, it was alright. More of a fun run than anything, spreading chaos and all that fun stuff. Hopefully there will be an Oblivion remake or remaster soon, but a part of me is afraid of the removal of jank that they would do for the remake, as the jank is what makes Oblivion, Oblivion. Well, if you liked the run, be sure to give a like, subscribe for more masochism, and any other ways to torture myself, leave them down below. This has been Orpheolus, and I'll see you on the next one.